So we are back, a very special edition of Rugby League Back Chat to try and keep you some company during these weird and strange times. Talking of weird and strange, I've got two weird and strange people to talk us through this show. Welcome, Derek Beaumont and Craig Harrison. Gents, I've got to apologise to you first and foremost. I know you've had it rough this morning. Craig, last time he came on this show, he came on with his phone portrait, but it's not been too kind to him this lockdown, so he had to turn it landscape. And then Derek, well, he broke the first phone that he were on. His camera saw his face and cracked, so he's had to change phones. So it's not been a good start. But we're here, gents. Thank you for joining us. How are we both?
Well, looking at Craig, I think I'm doing a little bit worse than him. I'm definitely looking a little bit redder than him, so I reckon I'm at least 2 bottles of brandy head, looking at the colour of his skin compared to mine.
Looks like a tanned god, does Craig?
No, come on, lads. Give me. We are struggling here in Harrogate, but the sun does come down a little lower in the north.
Loves mentioning that he's from Harrogate, does Craig? Our house prices there, Craig.
No. Don't cast us up. Don't cast it.
Hey, it's good to see you, though, gents.
He's framed his face with a nice white beard and hairline to make himself look more tan, hasn't he?
He knows that I'm conscious about the complexity of my skin, how pale I look, so he's put some of his missus' tan on before we come on.
I can only see.
I got told that Craig's been using the lockdown time pretty well. It's been the first time he's ever had enough time to count all the pound notes from under his mattress. He's almost finished, haven't you, mate?
Craig, are you speechless? Can't cope. I've never heard Craig speechless before. I could get used to that.
I think I'm.
I'll tell you what we could do with it. We could do with a prop forward size of him at the minute.
I tell you what. Let's get on to a little bit of a rugby league matter. The deadlines on May the 1st. We're not changing. We're sticking with May the 1st. How do you start recruiting, Derek?
Why do people wait till May the 1st?
Well, hey, I ain't getting into that. You're getting me in trouble here. I am not getting involved in that conversation.
Do you know what? It's an interesting one because I received an email off an agent that won't name with players that he's got available coming off next year. And the thing was, 3 of them were mine. And I thought, so I messaged Duffs and I said, we might need to just have a chat with these 3 before anybody else does. But now, obviously, recruitment's always a live thing, as Craig will tell you. You've always got to have an eye forward. It's a bit difficult for us because we've got aspirations of being in Super League. So, it's a different budget, different amount of money and different players you can attract. And also, there's a long time left in this season for people to show us what they can do. So we'd normally know a little bit more about what we have got and capabilities than we do currently. So, it's a tough place to be until, we want to give our own players the opportunity to show that they can do what we need in Super League as well and indeed get us there first.
Craig, how on earth do you decide what's a good deal for your player at the minute? That seems absolutely impossible to me.
I'll be honest with you, you'll know this, I speak to you regular. I'm not comfortable with doing any deals yet. I wouldn't be, if people know me, I'm not. It's not about the deals at the moment, it's about the game. I have no interest in that. I'll do it if the player... So I had a player another day who said, look, I'm out of contract. I said, look, I don't feel comfortable speaking to clubs about anything this year yet. Let's get some sorted. Let's get some proper direction, then we'll get at it. There's enough time for that, Matt. It's not for me. Back to what Deg said about... there's a famous story about an agent who sat with a chairman for 20 minutes telling him he had good left to right pass, nice feet, nice size, athleticism, and then chairman finished off at end of conversations. I do know it is in our academy. So that actually doesn't go off, I think. So it's just not a comfortable time for any of us. I wouldn't think so. Derek will tell you different other agents might be punting about everywhere. I wouldn't. I won't feel comfortable. Let's get some direction on game, and then we'll, all bets are off again.
Derek will be having a field day here because, come on, Derek, you've tried to sign Jared Hayne, you've tried to sign Ben Barber, you've probably tried to bring Jonathan Thurston out of retirement as well at some point down the line. You must be lining up anyone at minute. There must be some right superstars looking for a gig.
Hey, I tell you what, to answer Craig's question for him, how he gets the price, what's a good deal for his player, is he thinks of a figure, times it by 3, doubles it, and then puts it to you on a text. And when you say that's not right, he says, well, I've got a couple of clubs who think it is, son, so... there's no agents. There was just one, and he's not trying to get deals or anything. He's just obviously continuing with his business and letting people know ahead of the game who he's got available and when. There's nobody really pushing anything, and I don't think, like Craig says, it's an appropriate time to be looking at doing anything like that. I'm not even really in much contact with Duffs other than just checking he's all right and that these welfare checks on the players are all right, and with nobody in any bother. I think, like Craig says, the main thing is at the moment how we're going to get the game back going and how we're going to get the clubs through it and how we're going to survive and, what's the possibilities. My big thing is at the moment, we've got however many season ticket holders that have paid in goodwill for a ticket, and the likelihood is it's looking like it's going to be behind closed doors. I don't know what Craig's thoughts are, but I just think that the way the game's going to get back going is going to end up starting certainly behind closed doors. So I'm more looking at the moment in my time of ways in which we'll be able to stream our games live to our season ticket holders if that happens, and also maybe generate an income from letting people subscribe to see it who aren't season ticket holders. Because if we don't make the games available to our season ticket holders, then they've every right to look at wanting the money back if the games happen where they can't see them. And if that happens, then we're all facing disaster.
Craig, come on, let's get stuck into this. You've been the voice of rugby league when it comes to streaming and everything over the last couple of weeks. Where we at? What do we need to do from here?
We just need to make some decisions based on results we're getting. If you're getting the results on, we need the numbers down. Nice sponsorship that day. We need the numbers down, don't we? We need the numbers down, a bit more safety, and then we can get into it. If you look at the NRL model, perfect. They've actually got it down to 0.00 risk. So they've gone with a risk assessment to the government who've said, right, as long as you adhere to this, and obviously there's been then two top players got it out back for a weekend, haven't they? Barbecue, and that's got that up. But as long as they adhere to it, Matt, I put a business plan to everybody in the game. I put a business plan to everybody. I don't think Derek will know. I phoned Derek, I phoned you, I phoned every person who's in rugby league saying, why are we not thinking of playing behind closed doors? Why are we not thinking of creating an income stream from online? I can't believe what we're doing. And it's took so long to get it to this stage, which I now think, as Derek's rightly said this morning, clubs are all over weekend saying, yeah, we're gonna try and play behind closed doors. There's still two clubs not adhering to that, but as soon as Sky pull the money or defer the payment, they'll play. Simple as that. That won't even be a question. As soon as Sky say, by the way, if you don't play, I think there's 71 games, Matt, to complete, and that'll have to be done to get the money. Whether you get it now deferred or whatever, it don't matter. So they will play, and then let's think of the income stream for the clubs. Right down that, my view on that. Everybody in the game should benefit from the stream. Think about this, and I'd like to hear Derek on this. We as a product sold Sky our package, and I was telling my mate from Ireland the other day, and I said they only use 2 games, probably potentially 3 a week of that package. So for actual paying for Sky throughout the leagues, there's only 2 games viewed, average in the playoffs and the grand final. So all the rest of the games, there's no income. They're just sat there in an editor's box. Let's make some income stream out of that. People said, you shouldn't be pushing. I'm not pushing Sky. Sky have been fantastic and loyal to our game. Absolutely, first class. But these are different times. The game's in proper. If it weren't for people like Derek pumping money, and the game's gone. They've got to get to that fact. Even anybody you want with all the political views, this game is on a knife thread here. This is on. We've got to get income streams in because there's not many Dereks left. There's not many people who are going to want to do that. I'm telling you.
A lot of people would be happy to hear there aren't a lot of Dereks left.
Yeah, you're not kidding there. No, I mean, Craig did send an interesting proposal round, and I like anybody that puts things out there, whether they're right or wrong, is irrelevant at some points, because it's the fact that he's thinking proactively and he does care about the game and he cares about his players. And for me, obviously the players are very important, because let's be brutally honest here, and this is the conversation I had with Craig. If ultimately this doesn't get back going, and let's just say the season was cancelled, and let's just say season ticket holders wanted the money back, Sky stopped putting the money in, then basically as a sport we're bust. So every club goes bust. Every club starts on -12, so effectively you're all starting on 0. So the RFL's addressed that anyway with its operational rules. So ultimately, all that gets basically shafted, is there's no better word, are the players who end up with no jobs and no money, and the season ticket holders, fans and sponsors who have paid money and get nothing back for it. And then you rise the phoenix from the ashes and say, right, let's start rugby league again. And you ask all those same players you've just shafted and all those same season ticket holders and sponsors you shafted if they'll all come back and buy into the sport. So that just isn't going to happen. So we have to find a different way of how we can deal with it. And what Craig put forward, home advantage is largely having your spectators there. So if there are none there, then I don't see a big issue. If somebody said to me, right, let's, we're going to play championship games, they're going to be played at Huddersfield, as an argument's sake, and there's going to be 3 on a day. Obviously, the surface has to be able to take it. There's loads of other things to put into question around it. And those games was going to be streamed, as Craig suggested, by Sky. Why not let Sky have as much of it as possible? I've got my club shirt on here with our sponsors on because they're getting nothing. It might give them a little bit of coverage on this show. If they're all the games are on Sky, well, they're getting more than they would have ever got. So that's a positive from a negative for them. And more people who are sat there at the minute with nothing to watch, nothing to bet on, no gambling that can be done. We've got a great sponsor in Betfred who puts a lot of money into every level of the game. It gets them back seeing some business. It gets people who wouldn't watch rugby watching rugby. And then Craig's got a great idea on what we need to do with that to make sure that people carry on watching it who do. And I think everything he says on that aspect is a win-win.
Here's one for you, Derek. As we all know, Sky want the games being shown in Super League because of this broadcast deal. We're in a broadcast deal for Championship and League One. So I'm sure, and there are flaws to this, don't get me wrong. What's stopping you guys waiting until you can play in front of crowds, even if that's October and playing through the winter? What about
that? No, I just think you leave it too long, because what you do with your promotion and relegation then, Matt, because
that's the issue, yeah.
That's the big thing, and that's what we're all in playing for. I mean, Sky do have the rights to the Championship and Championship One. I'm sure that given there's not a lot of content for them, if we could get it going, then they would be interested in dealing with that. If they're not, then I would be, leaning on Ralph to say, can we get some freedom from them where we can stream our own games to fulfil our season tickets and maybe generate an income another way. And I personally would be happy to invest, and this is what I've been looking at, in decent putting some money into some decent cameras and software to enable us to be able to do it at a decent level. And then the positive from that is we can always do that going forward as well down the line, because we've also got to look as a sport, in particular the Championship. If Super League gets a deal that doesn't really put a lot of money down to the Championship and we have to find our own way of doing things, then it may well be that clubs have got to survive by streaming their own games.
We've only got about 2 minutes before we have to have a quick break here, but on promotion relegation, right, come on, Derek, you can fill us in on this one better than anyone, because we're being told that Super League don't want relegation. Obviously, the RFL want to keep promotion. So what's going on? Are we going to have it? Are we not? You tell us.
Well, the most important part of that conversation is that decision is solely made by the RFL. It's not a Super League decision. So the RFL will decide that. Super League, you can understand why they don't want relegation. And if I was in Super League and down near the bottom end, I wouldn't want relegation either. But it isn't fair to say that the whole of Super League don't want relegation, because I know that there's clubs in there that do. But it's suggested that they don't have it, and that I've been approached by a Super League chairman and asked what my thoughts would be if it was 13 and 2 went down the following year. Well, I wouldn't be keen on that, because staying in Super League is a tough gig, as I've found out twice before. So try and stay in there by beating 2 other teams is an even more difficult scenario. So if they was going 13 with a view to going 14 the year after, then that might be something for them to look at. But other than that, I think someone's got to come down. The games will be played, so it's the same difference, just over a short period of time.
Do you think, Craig?
I think it's split camp. Quickly, I know I can see time. I think Derek, being honest there, if I were Neil Udgell or somebody in that bottom four, would I stick another $500,000 in with the threat of losing my... Probably not. I think the sensible thing tells you that'd be hard to do, wouldn't it? I think there's got to be some protection, without doubt, but then I don't want to let Derek's dream of bringing Leigh back up and Featherstone and whoever else to lose have got to have their dream of life. So I'd probably look at making the comp a little bit bigger and allow that window.
Well, we will have more conversation after a bit of light-hearted fun, a bit of serious talk. We'll let Craig and Derek get the gags back in order before the second part. We'll be right back after this break.
Don't forget, Back Chat is available on FreeSports throughout the season on all of these platforms. And you can also catch up via the FreeSports player by registering for absolutely free.
Welcome back to this week's Rugby League Back Chat. We've had a bit of a break. Craig tried to go back to portrait on his phone, but he still won't fit. So he's gone back to landscape now, and we're all good and ready to go again. Fellas, we were talking about promotion relegation. I've got this theory. I don't know what's wrong with it. I'll put it to you. There is an appetite for 14 teams. Not everyone wants it. There are pros and cons. There are no perfect structures. That's my belief anyway. But why don't we? Because teams don't want relegation from Super League this year, we go one up from the Championship for the next 2 seasons. No one comes down. You've got your 14 teams. Everyone's happy because they can go up. Everyone's happy because they can't go down. What's wrong with that?
Let's do it. No, obviously the thing is the finance side of it, Matt, because it's splitting the pie, whatever the money is, 14 ways as opposed to 12. The argument coming in there in Super League, you've got Toronto, who, for the record, I don't think will finish bottom anyway, because I think when teams get out there, they'll pick up some points. But the thought process is that if it was Toronto that went down and Leigh came up, as an argument's sake, then the pie's getting split the same, because Toronto don't get any money. So by not relegating, if Leigh came in, you've got the same situation. Plus, by not relegating anybody, you're not going to pay a parachute payment. So Super League fundamentally is probably better off with having a 13th team. The issue is if 2 was to go down. So if you go to 14 teams, then you've got a situation where the pie is then being split. But we've got to, look at what's best for the game rather than what's best individually for each club financially. And a lot depends on what deal Robert gets from, Sky or whichever broadcaster he's talking to. But I think where the key issue is now is definitely what Craig says is servicing Sky. But let's just take Neil Udgell as one person, intelligent guy there, put a lot of money in, Old Kingston Rovers, well-supported club, been down, survived it, got back up. So there's a lot of similarities in my situation and with Neil's. And really, I have empathy for his, and he does mine. So if you look at the situation, we're both faced with a decision, because if somebody said to me now, right, season's void, there's no promotion, then I'm left in a bit of a situation where, well, hang on a minute, I've invested in a team that I think is going to give me a good chance of getting up, and I wouldn't have spent that money on a team that can't get promoted because it's pointless. Similarly, Neil's now faced with the decision of, well, if the plug's going to go, I might as well pull it now before I put a load more money in, chasing something that, might never happen. So I appreciate there's no certainty at the minute with COVID and when it's going to end and when we can play and things like that. So what we have to do is put some certainty around us that we can control. So we can control saying nobody's going to get relegated. We can control we're still going to have promotion, and we can control what happens beyond that. So for me, the only stumbling block is the scenario. What would have me against it is the scenario of 2 teams coming down the following year. So if they can deal with that, then everybody's in favour, as I understand. I haven't spoke to Featherstone and Toulouse, and they'll obviously think they've got as good a chance as I have, as will other teams. So it's by no means just a case of speaking to Leigh and what they think about. But what you say makes sense to me. That is the ideal solution. Get it to 14 and just have a business plan in place that what the worst case scenario would be financially for each team in them circumstances.
Here's a question, though. Now, something that you mentioned there was Robert Elston negotiating a Sky deal. Well, in the last few weeks, and I might be overreading this, but it would appear to me that there is a bit of a movement for Super League to come back in with the RFL, because Eamon McManus was glowing in his praise of Ralph Rimmer, didn't say a word about Robert Elston. And then at the weekend, Neil Hudgell said himself that the club can't afford 2 executive bodies. Craig, what's going on here? Surely, after all that went on a couple of years ago, Super League aren't now deciding they want to come back in as one.
Easy for me, Matt. Completely easy. It's if you're going to go cap in hand to the government for a donation, for a help out, you can't go with £1 million clubs. You have to go with your working class sport and say we need help. You can't go and say this club needs help and they're turning over 15 million. So they've needed it. They've needed to look at the RFL with a bit more respect. And there's no doubt there's going to be moves made to bring it back as one. And at the moment, the RFL are 3-0 up and it's half time. Let's be honest. That the 3-0 up, they don't look like there's much attack coming from Super League. I've never seen a lack of content in my life not coming from an organisation. So bottom line is, do I think it'll go back as one? Of course it will. Secondly, should there be some humble pie by people who push the RFL away? 100%. And then we move on. Then we've got to move on because it's same as the COVID. Hindsight's brilliant. But it's happened. We get on with it. If they go back as one, I don't mind. I don't mind at all, as long as it helps the sport. If we all think of the bigger picture, all politics is rubbish. For me, I've apologised in my life for doing things wrong. If they come back to RFL and say, you know what, we thought at the time it were right, we've realised it wasn't. When it's hit the fan, we've needed the working class rugby league to get us out of it, and that's it. Apologise and move on. Get your egos out of the way and get on with it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Go on, Derek.
The thing. I mean, I was obviously in Super League the year that we did that, and probably, the difference and maybe why they went for it while I was there, I don't know. But I'll say this here and now, really. I think it needed doing at the time because of what was going on and being able to get information and where the thoughts of how the various finances was being worked, etc. And I think there's lessons been learned from the RFL. I probably regret actually the way I voted on that now, if I'm honest with you. Looking at it, and I think Ralph Rimmer's shown superb leadership for the RFL on this. The information we've been supplied as clubs, it's been far-reaching. It covers all stakeholders, even down to stadium companies that are now stuck, where they're not getting any income themselves, down to fans, to sponsors, to players, to agents, everybody. It's far and reaching. And I think the way that he's liaised with other heads of sports, and it's the RFL that's got the seat at that table, rather than Super League. So it's Ralph Rimmer who's at the table with Sport England and everybody else, not Robert Elston. And I think as a governing body, the what's recognised and not Super League. So maybe there is a little bit of thought of that, and are we paying two sets of people to do what essentially one could do? I think the infrastructure of the RFL's, very good, and it's been serving a long time. So I think there's good come out of it. I think Ralph would agree with that insofar as how things have changed and how they are as an organisation, and realising that it can be taken away from them. And I think Super League have probably realised it's not as easy without the RFL. So maybe it comes back together stronger.
That's a very diplomatic answer, that, Derek.
Yeah, on that, you look at, and this is not about individuals. I bet you Robert's coming to our sport with his organisation and looked at it, and then within 15 months this has happened. And I think you tweeted somebody, but was this on the agenda before COVID? Was this already things people were talking about? Our sport, they can't keep a secret. There would have been things discussed that, ultimately Robert will be judged, rightly so, on the Sky deal. So if they can then say, because of what's happened, Sky going to cut 100 million off top end, right, will that be Robert's fault? No, probably not, in a way. Because of what's happened, they've got stronger bargaining. We don't have anybody else to compete with Sky. That's been a fault of the sport.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
I think, yeah.
He's got a tough job.
Craig. Go on.
Sorry, Matt. Robert's got a very tough job here. Let's give him some respect there and credit where he's due. He's obviously commercially savvy guy. He's done his time at Everton, etc. I haven't really met him properly, but he's got a really tough job at the moment because, in some respects, Sky are being very honourable to us. They're still making the payments and we're not producing the content. So it does weaken his situation a little bit in terms of saying, I'm just chatting with Amazon, or I'm just chatting with, BBC or whoever, or Facebook Live. So it does make him a little bit difficult. But at the same time, we can switch that straight on its head by going back to what we talked about earlier, by getting them a load of content, giving them a lot more than they would normally get. Yeah. And then we can say, this is what we've given you, this is what we've done, and actually reverse it and put ourselves in a stronger position. And I really think that's what's got to be done.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. I think my concern, and it's not much of a secret if anyone's on social media, I had a long conversation with Michael Carter about this matter, and I think my concern, looking at what's happening here, is Super League come back in. When it was split, we were told that Super League wanted more control generally, but also more control in negotiations on a Sky deal. Now, we knew there was going to be a lot of cost that came with splitting because they had to get their own office space, their own employees, so on and so forth. There has been a lot of cost. At the minute, what can you say has been the return on investment, and has it been significant enough for it to be worthwhile? I don't know if you can say yes to that at the minute. That's my concern. At the same time, I appreciate the impact that COVID's had, because who could have predicted this? It's not ideal, it's not great, but it just seems that we were told we were judging Robert Elston on the Sky deal, and now we're being told that if they come back together, Robert Elston won't be leading that. The RFL have been in negotiations anyway, Michael said yesterday. So then it does leave you questioning why we've put all this expense into something if we're not going to see out what it was actually intended to do. That's my thoughts on it, and I'm happy. I'm happy to have this conversation. I don't mind saying that publicly.
Matt, again, hindsight is wonderful. Again, we'll never know whether Robert could have delivered the record package. My instinct, personally, no. I think us having really one provider for the last 20 odd years, and they're a loyal provider, and they've probably saved the game, but it's a dilute of our game that we haven't gone out and produced other forms of streaming the greatest game in the world. We've not done it. We've got to stick our hands up, everybody as a sport, and said we've just been happy to take the Sky deal and not do that. We've got to look for other avenues. Everybody now is indoors. Why don't we take the greatest game in the world indoors? My things, Matt. 6 weeks ago, I said to you,
yeah.
Got people in Google Box, fans in thing cheering, and
he's waiting for me to call him a genius. He's egging me on all afternoon.
It's not about individuals.
You got it.
No, it ain't. But you look at it, Matt. Matt, seriously, I don't know if we think different. Derek will tell you this. I bet you Derek can tell you this. And I said this in my first thing. If you're in your own business and you're in life, you can't think like everybody else because you wouldn't be where you are. You have to think different. I don't get it. We've got to think different. We can't think like everybody else. And the quicker we get on that... Go on.
Do you know what, though? In the Championship, could be argued that some of the clubs could play without being behind closed doors and social distance with the crowds that we get. I was even thinking about... I was going to have a word with Simon too, because the CEO at the Sports Village, because we've got I think it's 11,500 stadium there. I think we only sold 1,300 season tickets, so surely we can get everybody in and keep them 2 meters apart. There's not going to be a big rush. But no, on a serious note, Ralph's obviously out and about looking for the Championship, and what that can do, and building up the R-League app, which you'll both see now that's growing and servicing the Championship well. Might be something that becomes subscription-based down the line to assist with that, or even pay-per-view on there. So they are a lot further down the line than some people would give them credit on that. So that's obviously why Ralph's in a position. But I think as well, from Robert's point of view... Go on, sorry, Craig.
Listen, first thing's got to be service TV deal, service season tickets, and then we move to stage 3. It should be straight at that. Service them too when it's safe to do so. Safe to do so, and the minimum risk. I talked to some players this week. This is for both of us, all of us, and I said to them last week, why are players not coming out? Why are players scared? And a couple said, I don't want to rock boat. I don't know what my CEO's thinking. And I'm saying, guys, you need to come out and speak for yourselves. And a lot of them are saying, we want to give the fans something back. We want to give people something to look forward to. We want to help. If people are paying for us, let us help them by showing them something when it's safe to do so. So I don't get. We've got to get them first 2 things serviced. That's get the country in a way where we can go at it and get it on. I don't. There should be a passion from everybody when it's safe to do so. Look at the NRL, Matt. Every day there's 45 debates, and they're running about stress to get the game back on the telly because they know how important it is to people's lives, and getting some out there, something to look forward to, and the game itself to save it. So I just think everything should be thrown into it, everything, and no more politics. No more Ralph, no more Robert, no more this, no more. Put it all away, put your prams away, and come together and let's get it on.
Craig Harrison now going by Winston Churchill.
The big issue you've got, and I can see the timer there, is you're going to be putting, 34 people on a big square of grass together, and you're going to get people who are not into sports saying, well, if that's allowed, why can't I go to the park with my kids and meet my family and stuff like that? So it's obviously got to come behind other things so that it's publicly seen as okay, hasn't it?
Of course it has.
Yeah, agreed. Look, we've had a lot of serious chat the first 2 parts. After this break, we're going to have a bit more light-hearted fun. Hopefully, I can avoid any abuse and ridicule. I'll leave it to the other 2 to go at each other. We'll be right back after this short break.
Don't forget, Back Chat is available on FreeSports throughout the season on all of these platforms. And you can also catch up via the FreeSports player by registering for absolutely free.
Hello everyone, welcome to the final part of this week's show. We're going to... Craig, what are you laughing about already? We haven't even started yet.
I was thinking back to Derek said he hadn't met Robert Alston. Reportedly, there was a list Robert got told of 6 people to avoid, and Degs were on top.
I tell you what, whoever was advising him was spot on though.
I think I heard.
I was just behind him.
Yeah, I heard my one was at the top of it because he always comes first, doesn't he? So he was top, me second, you third.
Mar,
what's
Marwan doing now?
I don't know, but I'm going to have him another weight loss challenge soon. I'm ballooning here, mate.
Well, I didn't. I thought that you might have tried the portrait like Craig did, but I didn't have that on good authority, and I can't report false information. So, but you said it. You said it.
I think Marwan's proper struggling, isn't he? Because all the horse racing's gone, his rugby's gone, his hotel's been shut. So I don't know what he's doing. I'm not on Twitter.
He should just set up another rugby league club. How many has he set up now? He had that Cumbria one. He had one in Liverpool. It's his next venture.
He's got about 19 teams in Dubai, you know.
Has he got his own league?
Hey, on top of that, it's packed in the old darts as well, so he'll be checking.
Hey, do you know the first time I met Marwan is a bit of an interesting story. I can't remember why he'd asked me to meet him, and I went over and met him at Salford Stadium up at the top. And at the time, it was cloaked in secret that I'd signed Fui Moi Moi, but nobody knew. And it had all been done with this solicitor over there, and I'd had to do personal guarantees and everything. And I was amazed that I'd kept it as a secret, and it was in the bottom drawer in my desk. And the girl goes over meeting him, and he's quite a character the first time you meet him. Like he has got an aura about him, you know, that comes across as quite intimidating. And I'm sat there and we're chatting away. Anyway, it gets quite relaxed. And then he says to me, he says, so he kind of didn't get a good answer on the first two things, whatever they were, and asking about a stadium thing. And then I think a friendly, and we'd already organised something. And then he said, anyway, he says, I'm thinking of signing that Fui Moi Moi. And he just started laughing. And he was like, what are you laughing at? I said, I can't tell you because I'm thinking I can't tell anybody, you know, I'm sworn to secrecy. And he went, you've not bloody signed him as well, have you? I'm afraid so, mate. Yeah. A good story on Fui. We did when he first come over. We did a warm weather training camp. An army camp, not a warm weather training camp. Rolls was the coach, and he got them in this camp where they was in overnight, and they got them out, chucked them in a lake, and this, that, and the other. And Fui, you can imagine, coming from the NRL, big superstar, he'd none too happy, so he'd stuck him in a dormitory with Gazok and Mickey Hyam. So to look after him. Anyway, he comes back in from doing a thing, and Fui's knelt down with his head on the radiator in the room, shaking. And the next thing, Mickey comes in, he says, Fui, what you doing? And he gets up and he says, Mickey, feel me head, tell coach, got a temperature.
That's outstanding. Outstanding. Hey, Derek, well, Craig, one for you as well, this. What's the best deal you've ever done?
It's not with Craig.
Yeah. Not one to leave, let me tell you. I would say, what in terms of changing someone's life or money or what's your give us direction?
Just your opinion, mate. I know that you're the master of Moneyball. You love that, but just whichever you think has been the most satisfying, the most successful, whichever you think is the best in your eyes.
I'll give you a recent one. I'll give you two quick ones. So if you look at, I did a podcast 2 years ago and cracked a joke about telling Gailey that I'd brought Jake Truman in and I was going to replace him with Truey in 2 years and he was going to go back to Leeds. But I said it as a laugh. And Gailey looked at me and he's like, texting me saying, no, we've always had a bit. I said, Truey will have you in 2 years. You'll go Leeds. Well, when it happened, I thought, and I went back on the podcast and I'd said it and I was like, oh my God. So based on what I saw of Luke in the last 3 or 4 games, and he had to turn the Leeds fans round because at first, you know what fans are like, he got the full Monty. When they got beat at Hull, it were all his fault. I were watching it, and fans are putting boot in, and what a waste of money. And then the last 5 games, oh my God, he had them singing in the aisles, the reverse pass. They're all locked down now, Luke Gale fans. And the other one, rewarding, and I don't want to put anybody in, it's not trouble, but when we went in before the grand final to secure Danny Maguire's deal at Leeds, this is before the CAS grand final, we sat down with Gary and me and Danny discussed what money he wanted, what terms, and Gary just opened the speech with and he starts going through it, and I looks at Danny out at the side of my mouth, and I'm thinking, I don't know if they're going to offer you something. So I'm slowly slipping down the chair. Danny's looking in completely with Gobboppen, and Gary's saying, you know, talking about corporate and working within a structure at Leeds. Danny's thinking he's in for, you know, X amount and another 2-year magic. And we've walked out in car park, just staring at each other. None of us talked. And I was like, has that just happened? And I got home, and Gary said to me, you know, I think that went rather well, you know, whatever. So I sat there thinking, luckily, by 7 o'clock that night, it were all over. When Gary made the call the next day, the deal were done. And that was it. And then Danny went on to change the course of, you know, Leeds. They won the grand final, got player of the thing. He probably put his legacy up there as one of the greatest ever. But behind that story, my God, so rewarding-wise, if you walk it, Diggs will tell you, if you walk into a deal, you're thinking you're in full toffee, and halfway through you're thinking, this is not what's on the menu. Actually, you know, this is a thank you for what you've done service, chat. You know, it would have had 2 days, let me tell you.
The best one for me, without a shadow of a doubt, is a player that never even played for me, which is Bryson Goodwin. So the centre, we'd signed him for the, this was the year we was in Super League. And Simon Moran, a good friend of mine, the owner at Warrington, liked the way he works because he's straight through the front door. And I'd previously bought Mickey Iam off him with halfway through the season when we lost Penke. He basically sent me a text saying Bryson Goodwin offering me money for him. And at the time, as you'll know, if you get relegated, the player can terminate just the same as you can. And I turned down his first offer. I can speak about the figures anyway, I suppose. So it was I think it was 40K. And the player's never played for me. And Bryson's on 6 figures, all the bells and whistles that people like Craig get for him with the flights and the agents' fees, whatever. Anyway, so I said no. I was confident we could stay up, and I needed it, you know, to improve the team. We was on our way down to London, and we needed to beat them by about 30 to guarantee ourselves that we'd be at home in the £1 million game, irrespective of Catalan and Winders. And Simon, being a shrewd guy that he is, he knew there'd be a figure that had test me. And I was driving down to London, and he just gave me a call, and he said, what if we make that figure 60? And I was like, this is a tough gig here now, because the guy's on a big contract anyway. If he comes, I can get 60 guaranteed and find myself another player. And we could get relegated and he goes for nothing. Anyway, as it turns out, it was the right decision. So I took 60K, made 60K on a player that never even put a shirt on for us or crossed the line. So it's probably got to be my best deal. Best one with Craig. It is, isn't it? The best one with Craig, what's looking like a real good one for us at the moment, is going to be Danny Addy.
Craig, what is that noise? What's going on in your garden?
Guys, sorry about this. I can't believe it. 2 seconds. Stay there.
He's doing a Houdini. Go on, Craig. Go on, Derek. You carry on with your story.
I thought he had a bit of flatulence then. I didn't want to... No, Danny Addy was looking really, really good for us just before everything got put on stop. So that was a good one with him. But probably the best thing I ever negotiated, you know, was for my club, was in an hotel reception in Portugal the year, but we got promoted into Super League. I took them all to Portugal to watch the £1 million game. And the missus had booked it all for me. And she rung me in the morning after the first night. She said, you need to get yourself down to reception. They're kicking you out. I said, me? She said, no, all of you. I said, what the hell for? She said, you've been racial abuse. She said, you'll like this one, Craig. You got racial abuse, guys walking around half naked, peeing in the pool, and a mother and daughter have been chased around the hotel by some players. So they're kicking you all out. You need to go to reception. So I goes down to the reception, gets this. She speaks great English, this manageress. So I says, what's going on? So she tells me exactly what I've just mentioned. I said, right. I said, first of all, racial chanting. I said, we've gotten Fubi Moi Moi from Tonga. I had Sean Richardson there, my right man, he's a black guy. I says, we've got an Irish, English, Scottish. I says, we're more mixed race than anything. How have we got racial abuse? I said, and how on earth can a man be half naked? I said, you're either naked or you're not naked, aren't you? You know, so I think that was referring to Jamie Acton walking around with a thong. So I said, And what's this peeing in the pool? I said, has somebody actually stood on the side of a pool and peed into it? She said, I don't know. I said, well, when I had a pee in it, it didn't turn purple. So how does anybody know someone's had a pee in the pool? I said, and as for some mother and daughter running around the hotel and getting locked in a room, I said, these are athletes. If they were chasing them, they'd have definitely caught them, love, I'm telling you. Anyway, we managed to get away with it and keep ourselves in. So on the last day, we're checking out. And they held the minibuses to ransom until all the bills had been paid. So I paid a massive bill. We did $5,000 in the first bar afternoon. So next thing, I'm in this taxi minibus. I'm like, you need to get us out of here now. We're nothing to do with the hotel. We've got to go. Tom Spencer comes and sticks his head in. He says, Derek, they want €300 for a bottle of vodka. I don't even drink vodka. Someone's put it on my room. So I goes in with him. I said, here's the 300, love. Let's get sorted. We need to go. As I comes out, this other woman comes across. She says, are you Mr. Tickle? We had Danny Tickle there, didn't we? I said, yeah. Mr. Tickle? I said, I'm Mr. Angry. Get me a minibus and get me out of here at pace. Fast forward 30 minutes. I'm sat, maybe an hour. I'm sat on the plane at the side of Neil Dukes, and my phone goes, it's Gazok. What time we going, Dex? I said, what time we going? We're sat on the plane. Somebody told me you were staying. The lads had wound us up and said Gaz and Danny were staying on and not coming home with us.
How did they get home?
He should have gone home earlier, Gaz, with Mickey Iam. Mickey left on the Saturday. Gaz should have gone that day to go home to go to America with his missus. Missed that flight, then missed our flight, and couldn't get one, I don't think, for about 4 days after that. Crazy.
Hey Matt, really? Matt, I'll give you a quick one about when I was an owner of a club like Derek. We did a pre-season do with the great, and our coach at the time was the great Ellery Hanley. So I knew how you had to act around El, but I'm thinking he hadn't realised yet I'm an up-ball. I'm full on. So we goes and he gives me a talk before the day. He said, look, Tops, best behaviour today. Let's keep it nice, professional. I'm thinking, I've organised go-kart challenge, greyhounds at Sheffield, casino, then nightclub. So I'm thinking, do I drop this in yet? What's happening? So he gets to go-kart and El pulls me. And he said, look, Tops, we're not going in the go-karts. I goes, no, that, I've paid for it. I'm in kart one. So I've raced all lads. We've had a great go. We've got the tinnies on the bus on the way to the hotel. Ellery's come out and given me a speech again and said, look, Tops, let's get them in the room. Let's get them really, Well, I've just get free bar, 2 hours, full on. So I'm into 7 pints, and I'm jigging about, and he's giving me it again. He said, what time shall we meet to go to the Greyhounds? I've never been to the Greyhounds, Tops. Anyway, he gets there, it's on. Honestly, it's on. It's just crazy. Drink, everyone's having the best time ever. And I can see him totally uncomfortable with the situation, but he's looking after me by now. He's thinking, thinking, I do this most days. Now, to be honest with you, this is normal. We ends up in casino. I'm on top table, 13 pints in, and I'm about a bag of sand down on table. And I looks up and he's staring at me, and he said, Tops, it's time to go home now. I really need to look after you. So I'm thinking, honestly, by the time we got home the next morning, he'd left. El had gone. I think he just wrote me a text saying, glad to meet you. I'll see you in about 3 weeks.
Ellery Hanley, one of the legends of the game.
When we first won championship to go full time the following year with Rolls and Ando, we went to Magaluf that year. Took all the lads. Ando says, "Oh, I'm not coming. It's not my scene." That anyway, we managed to talk him into it. We'd been there about an hour and a half, 2 hours. We're in this Chinese karaoke bar. He's got every single thing man can sell, flashing like I don't know what, dancing away. And I was like, not your scene, this, is it? Ando, lad. He was on first name terms with them all. Unbelievable.
Well, gents, I must say you've given me a good laugh there. And I don't think anyone abused each other too much either, which is quite nice. Probably a few swear.
Can't abuse him. I need more players off him, don't I? Especially... I can't go abusing him.
Well, let me tell you as well. I'm gonna stick up for him here. I'm gonna stick up for him here because he always gets worried when he speaks to me because he thinks that everyone thinks my main contact's him. But he tells me absolutely nothing, and I'm happy to put that on record. He won't. And if I find out anything about his players, I can't speak to him for a week until I put it out. So next time I leak one of your new signings, Derek, it won't from Craig, I can assure you.
Anyway, no, I know he's a straight shooter, lad. He says it as it is, and he's a straight player.
Indeed. Well, gents, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us as well. We've had a good laugh. Stay safe, look after yourself, do all the things you need to do, and hopefully we'll have some rugby league very, very soon. We'll see you later on.